Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, brother?
John.
Johnny, eat up, bud.
Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Did you guys mute me? Like, I have no idea what's going on.
No, you're not muted.
It's a great lead in though. Good stuff.
Oh, now he's frozen.
Oh boy.
Boy. Not only is it a hoagie-less Monday.
We got Derek on the lam here.
He's computer crashed. So I don't think he's actually with us. Yes, our plan worked. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of the Street Bullies. I am John.
And I'm Matt, and I'm the only one here. All right.
Oh, man, that's fantastic. Matt Casey, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well, man. I'm definitely on the mend after like losing my voice and being down with something last week, which I re-listened to our episode. And I was like, my God, I sound like a ghoul. I can't even handle this.
We were not in tip-top shape last week at all.
What's going on with you?
Nothing, man. I've been burping winter beer all day, and it hasn't been pleasant. I had a little too much fun yesterday.
You know, we went out like with another couple on Saturday night, and I'll tell you, man, like we were out till 10 o'clock, but we plowed through multiple bottles of wine, and I was a waste of space yesterday, and I need to stop drinking like I'm 23 again. At least need to start drinking like I'm 35, not 41.
Well, the alarm went off this morning, and I go into my daughter's room because she's like a farmer. She's up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I go in there. And she's got scissors in her hand and she's cutting paper. And I'm like, goddamn scissors. It's never good. So anyway, I go pick up these little shards of paper and I'm realizing what are these little light brown fibers I'm noticing all over the place? So I said, Reagan, did you cut your hair? No. If you didn't cut your hair, honey, then why is there brown hair all over the floor?
I did not cut my hair.
She's got like if all the hairs come down to her eyebrows, let's just say, not in this one spot.
Oh man,
it is brutal. I'm like, all right, man, no, nothing you can do about it. But that's like a rite of passage, I think, being able to cut your own hair.
100%. I mean, speaking of rite of passage, like Derek's computer is completely crashed, and so you got John and I, folks. That's all you're gonna get for a little bit. Hoagie's living the dream, playing beer league
with the Cobras. What a cheese ball, the Cobras. All right, well, I guess we should get into it. I just got finished saying I had zero preparation for this, and now I got to go in and host the thing. So here we go. It's my Jordan flu game.
Let's see.
I mean, Flyers last week, started off really well against the St. Louis Blues. I mean, we'll go into a little more detail each game, but started off really well. Peaked early, just like Derek, where afterwards they lost to Columbus. Then they lost to Ottawa. And then they lost to Dallas. And by the time they got to Dallas, I mean, Dallas just wiped the floor with us.
That was painful.
So I guess like overall takeaways.
I think I look at it in two different ways. One is we missed a beautiful chance to like really gain some ground on teams that were struggling last week. And unfortunately, I think what we ran into were two teams that were like incredibly desperate and saw us as the slump buster and through the kitchen sink.
Sure.
And really gave it to us. Now, like from a positive standpoint, like I was on a high after that St. Louis game. I was like, oh baby, here we go. I was skipping to work. I was like,
It was
having a grand
arguably our
old
best
time.
game. It was
Oh,
arguably our
hands
best game
down.
of the season.
Hands down. And then you go into Columbus and they're like, a wounded dog with like a, mangled paw, trying to get their game right. And unfortunately, like we lost that game. They didn't beat us. I felt we lost the game because of just egregious turnovers.
Yeah.
And they'll say hot goalie, blah blah, blah. It's like no, we outplayed that team with the exception of like 3 or 4 plays, and they cashed in on their opportunities. And I think you could honestly argue the same for what's it called? For
Ottawa.
Ottawa as well. Like I think we played pretty damn well, and then just the wheels came off.
Right.
So like with those couple games, I'm like, those are tough losses. I can deal with it, I suppose. But that Dallas game just showed that like we still just have such a ways to go from a talent standpoint in order to like get to that level on a back-to-back matinee game.
Right. I mean, well, and if you look at the Dallas team, first of all, they're stacked and they have a great goaltender. I mean, that's a game that, like, what we expect of the Flyers, they should be losing. I mean,
Right.
but it wasn't even a contest. That game could have been like 9-1.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost was.
Right,
Quite frankly.
right. But I think too, it's like some of the things that I kind of took away from it was when Carter Hart is only human, we're in trouble. I
Yeah.
mean, and like we were kind of waiting for that moment to happen, and this week it happened. I mean,
Mhm.
what did he let in? Was it 5 goals against Ottawa? Something 4?
Yeah,
Some
but I mean, if you look at like 2 of those were empty netters though, right?
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Was that the Ottawa game or was that the Columbus? I can't even remember. That
I
I
mean,
can't.
I don't know, but either way, like this team is going to live and die at its goaltender, and if he's not, allowing 1 goal, 2 goals max, we're in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality of it is like when our top line is our best line, but our top line is the 3rd line on most good teams,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going to run into issues. Like, and I don't know about you, but I have been really pleased with that Hayes, Konechny, Tippett
Yeah.
line.
I'm with you. I mean, I know Tippett had a rough game in Columbus and, was basically knocked down a peg or two. And I think they ended up putting Farabee up there, which, I don't mind. I still have been enjoying Tippett's game. And I think if you're going to pinpoint a couple guys that have played well, even in the rough 3-game stretch we've had, you could say Konechny hands down. You could
Right.
say Tippett, with the exception of that one game. And I think Hayes has actually done pretty well. Every now and then, Hayes is still making that extra pass, and I want to be like, shoot the puck, you bonehead, for God's
Right.
sakes. Like he's
Right.
pulling his inner Jake Voracek and just making that extra pass. But then on the flip side, he made the extra pass and Konechny like sniped a perfect shot.
Right.
The
When
the
it
other night.
works,
So it's like,
it's beautiful.
right. So I think that first line has been good, but it's just they're all we got. Unless
Right.
we get maybe Farabee will jump in, maybe Lawton will jump in. Like Sanheim can't seem to hit the broadside of a barn. We're not getting that secondary scoring that we were hoping we are getting. And so we're only getting 1, maybe 2 goals a game, which like is fine when Hart's on, but it's not going to work when our goaltending's off.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go off on a tangent here a little bit. I mean, this wasn't really part of our setup, but I was thinking a lot about like improvements this team can make because I think that there needs to be some sort of stability. I worry about this just constant flux of people in and out of the roster and really having 4th lines on down after the top line, just
Mhm.
like taking its toll on a team that's working their ass off, right? And like, I wonder if it would behoove the Flyers to just try to get some sort of improvement down the middle.
Mhm.
Like, and I don't know what that looks like. I mean, you think about like the big UFAs coming up, and I don't think we're necessarily in a rental game, but if you could extend a guy like Bo Horvat, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you could entice the Canucks with a move that was just like, okay, now at least we know we've got a Hayes Bo Horvat kind of thing, like
Mhm.
just to provide some sort of stability. And I know that everybody is going to say, well, this isn't the year to make a move. I just worry that like we're too much, that there's just
Right.
too much like unknown chaos right now.
That third line, John, is painful. That Frost, who is it?
Is it
Frost,
McEwen? Is he, or is
McEwen,
he on the
who
flip?
like it's tough to hate on McEwen, but like
Right.
he's a borderline. He's a borderline 13th forward. Like he
Right.
shouldn't be on the third line. And then Bellows is just he's doing
It's
hot nothing
nothing.
right now.
Yeah. Nothing.
And whoever's it, Laczynski's in there. Looks like we're calling up Max Willman. Big bad Max is coming back. Like that third line is just a wasted line, in my opinion. Like
Right.
our second line should theoretically be a third line. I think our first line should be a second line. Like we are missing
Right.
our top three forwards, and like it
Sure.
shows that our top three forwards still weren't premier forwards.
Right.
But it still would have been very helpful. But I think you're right, man. Like I think you look down the line, and even if we're dead last or on the bubble, or even you got to look for a way to at least improve like the consistent depth here, because I don't see Morgan Frost on this
Mm-mm.
team a year from now. He hasn't shown anything that is going to make me believe that he can handle a third line center role.
Right.
And so I'm sick of it. I think we need to cut bait and get out of here, and not to like go off on that tangent, but like I think there can be in-season moves to be made where we end up maybe dumping something or moving on from somebody and gaining something for the future that gives us not top line scoring, but at the very least stability and depth.
Right. Because, well, and I was even thinking like the team is going to need to make some drastic step forward next season, in my mind.
Mhm.
Right. Like to keep the fan base interested, right? To keep ownership happy, for Chuck Fletcher to keep his job. And I wonder, like, what that really looks like in the off season. I mean,
Mhm.
it just can't be this continuous youth movement. We're not going to get to where we need to get at a
No.
timely fashion. Where, like, if you've got these guys who are available, and again, if Horvat can't get a contract in Vancouver, or kick the tires on a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, like just
Right.
just something where it's like, okay, maybe this is a little premature, but now I know if I'm able to extend this guy, I've got my theoretically first through third line centers set,
Mhm.
where like I don't know, we're in a weird place, but I'm not convinced that this is a team that can make drastic changes over the offseason with like what we have and the money that's available. Um, where like
Well, I
let's
think
plant the roots now.
right. I think one of the things is, let's assume JVR is off the books.
Yeah,
I think we need to find a way to get Ellis off the books, and people are like, oh, he's on LTIR. I get it. That doesn't help us in the offseason, though,
right.
because like we have to get him off the books if he's not going to play again. And so I think that's got to be a top priority. And then, caps going up. I get it. But I think that gives you enough room to play with there. And
Sure.
this is under the assumption that Couturier is going to come back somewhat healthy, and Atkinson as
Right.
well. But then you have at least enough money to go after one or two pieces in there, and where you put those pieces, I don't know.
Right.
But I think you're right. I think if there is availability with the player, who's on a dud team and who wants to come onto a team that's, on the rise a little bit more, like this may be the year to get that second line center, or, something like that to jump in.
Right. And do you think like my theory about this not like this hard fought mentality that we've got going just not being sustainable with this
Mhm.
ragtag group? Like, don't you
Yeah.
think at some point like the Kevin Hayeses of the world, he's the one that stands out, is just gonna get fed up?
I would think so. There's only so, I mean, I'm sure we all played competitive sports at some point. Like, how do you get up how do you get up for a game where you're just like, oh, here's loss number 13 coming up here? Like, I don't
Right.
know how they did that last year. And
Right.
and you can say it's the money and all that sort of stuff. there's still just a mental grind of that entire thing. And I think, you're right. There's only so many times you can come dipping into the pool and be like, all right, it's time to give Forster a look. Like he's going to inject a spark into this team. Like, is he? Maybe
Right.
not. Like, that's got to be a grind for these guys. And I really feel for someone like, I hope we do get some help. And I was encouraged to see Atkinson at least skating, because I would love to get these guys a little bit of help, because this is where I really think you're missing, even Van Riemsdyk, even though he's, the lesser of the three injured forwards, like he's something. He's an established guy. But if you can get Atkinson or Couturier back at any point, I know Couturier is less than likely, I think that'll help things immensely, just dealing with the mental aspect and the mental grind of it, because you have those veteran guys.
Right. I mean, and let's be clear. This is a far better product than what we're seeing from last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is a results-oriented business, and after a while, like the work ethic just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where there's some clear holes that need to be addressed. And I think Chuck Fletcher has put this team in a really tough position where it's like, we can't go the other way right now. We can't even be sellers at the deadline, because our two best assets at the beginning of the season were James Van Riemsdyk, who has a finger problem, and now Travis Sanheim, who's completely locked up.
Yeah. I don't, not to like rewind the tape, and I'll still go down as a big Ristolainen fan, but like Ristolainen has sucked this year. Like he has not been good.
Brutal.
And I hope he turns it around, or like, is this injury more and we got another guy with a mystery, hip concern. But you sign Ristolainen, you then sign Sanheim the day of opening, of opening puck drop. Like I don't understand what the rush was on that.
Right. Or the mentality of a team that's clearly like will come out and say like they need assets, right? And then they go ahead and they lock up their biggest trade pieces. Ristolainen, and like right before the deadline would have gotten them a decent return.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think like long term that would have made more sense. And then Sanheim, right? Like look at a team like Ottawa. They just lost Thomas Chabot. They were already in need of defense.
Yeah.
For once, Chuck Fletcher could have came in at a position of strength and not the guy going, oh, please.
I was thinking about this the other day. Two things. I was thinking about this the other day when we were playing Ottawa, and they're like, oh, okay, Ottawa's lost like 7 straight. And of course, we're the slump buster, but lost 7 straight. But it's like the acquisitions they made, DeBrincat, Giroux. Like I was like, oh, this was us a year ago. Like we tried to like bring it, and I was like, I'm kind of glad we're not in that scenario where like
you sense a common denominator.
Yeah, exactly. A struggling power play run through the left board. But I was looking at that, I was like, oh man, that's tough. And then I look at 2 other teams, and one we're playing tomorrow night is Columbus, who just lost Laine for an extended period of time. And then they lost who's their stud defenseman? Werenski? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Werenski. Yeah.
So he got injured against our team because I think Konechny ducked at Jack like a little snake. And so you're looking at them; they're starting to get depleted. But the game that really stood out to me that I was watching the other night was Pittsburgh and Washington. And Washington, literally the only regular they have in the lineup is Ovechkin.
Yep.
Every other one of their players, I was like, oh man, like we have it bad. Like I'm still like, oh, poor us. But like poor Washington is sitting there with like an all-star roster of injured reserve right now. And so I think it's going around like, everybody's dealing with it. And I think to bring it back to the Flyers, the grind is going to hurt if we keep losing. If we keep eking out wins here and there, I think there's enough on this team that's like, hey, you know what? This top line that should be a second line, they're starting to believe. That second line that should be a third line, they're beginning to believe. So when we do get Van Riemsdyk back, when we do get Atkinson back, you know what? I think they're going to be in a much better position to take control and not totally rely on those guys.
I think the interesting thing is even if we're losing, let's go back to those tight games. I mean, on the scoreboard, we were throttled 3 times this week.
Yep.
Hi,
We're
Derek.
about to get throttled again.
Look at you. Some computer troubles? Did you run to Best Buy real quick, get a new one?
I don't know
you
what
call the
happened, dude. I
Geek
think whoever
Squad?
sold me this thing really just screwed me out of a couple $100. But regardless, regardless,
It's like 4 years ago, dude. These things have
I
a
know.
shelf life.
They're not running backs. They shouldn't be done after 5 years. Jesus.
I mean, that laptop was like 6 years old before I sold it to you, brother.
No, in all seriousness, like I was listening, obviously, as I was trying to figure things out here for myself. This past week kind of showed us what we all expected this team to be. The Columbus game wasn't as bad as the score will show because, yes, the 2 empty netters, big deal. Like, it was a tight enough game up until those 2 empty netters. The St. Louis game was a great start to the week. I thought they handled that really well against a definitely less superior team, far inferior, if you will. Ottawa game stung a little bit. Yes, it was Giroux's homecoming. Okay, all the pomp and circumstance aside, whatever. Dallas one was the dagger for me. Like, with someone like me who had high hopes going into that week in terms of, proclaiming here a week ago that we were going to get 6 out of 8 points, I'm a little disappointed, but I foresaw the loss against Dallas because Dallas is obviously a very good team. I think Casey or one of you guys alluded to it. They're a deep team. They're a very good team. They're getting incredible goaltending from Ottinger so far, and that's a huge part of that. I mean, they scored 1 goal against them. Hart is
Don't
starting
you feel like
to.
we did this already, Casey?
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get
I mean,
Derek.
I know you guys and the tangents you go off on, so I figured I'd bring it back in. But we're starting to see him kind of fall back down to earth here. And by fall, I think after this next week, they're going to come crashing down.
Oof.
Yeah,
Tough.
I don't mean to have a flair for the dramatics here, but when you're playing Boston in the middle of the week,
Right.
not a good recipe for success.
What in the world was going on with Boston? Have they lost a game in regulation yet?
I have no idea, but they're so damn good.
Told you we should have got Jim Montgomery.
I mean, speaking of something we expected, Wade Allison injured. Shocking.
Lasted a little bit longer than I expected.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Typically, I don't get to say that.
They are saying it's not serious, which is good. I'm hopeful.
He's on. Is this from Ellis's doctor or what?
Atkinson's, really.
Yeah, we're gonna go from day to day to week till we're contemplating surgery.
Month to month.
the next
He's going to
you
see a
know-
shaman. Yeah.
We've got another muscle we've never heard of that's all of a sudden just off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel for Wade. I wouldn't say he was having a spectacular year, but he was doing fine. I think he was learning and doing well. I just think this poor kid just gets plays 20 games,
Shit
gets
luck.
hit, dinged up. Like, it sucks.
Right.
He was even going in for the check. It's not like somebody hit him. Like, he went to hit somebody, and then it looked like a abdominal injury or hip flexor, whatever it might be.
It looked like a hip to me. At first I thought it was a knee, but then I think it was a hip.
Like, yeah, hip, lower ab, like that area there. It looked like he was holding that and nursing it on the way to the bench in the locker room. So, again, Soul reports out there about that not being incredibly serious. But again,
At this
who
point,
knows
you
with
can't
this
afford
team?
to lose anybody at this point.
Sure we can.
Yeah.
We got plenty of bottom 6 forwards. you pick them. We've got them.
But part of the problem is like guys like Wade Allison or even like Noah Cates to another extent, like they would really benefit from just like solid line partners, like people who know what they're doing on a consistent basis, and like they'd be able to develop in that. But it's like when you've got these guys who you're essentially counting on to carry the load right now.
Who wouldn't benefit from that, though? I mean,
well, people who don't have the skill. Yeah, like I think
clearly we have none of.
No, but what I'm saying is I think that those players possess a certain amount of skill where it's like if you could put them with a little bit more of a seasoned player, and that's kind of why, like, going back to, and I don't know if you were actually listening, Derek, like, go and make a move just to get somebody to make this a little bit more stable.
So I know you had mentioned Horvat. In reality, though,
Well,
like
no, I know.
and I think it's feasible. Like if you make the right type of offer, sure, anybody's attainable. But like, what type of player are you looking to add to this team? Like, not specifically, not like go out and get this guy or this guy.
Right.
Like the type of player that's going to provide that
I
solidifying.
Young
wanna
40
see-
goal scorer. Yeah. Well, young 40
Yeah.
goal scorer. That's what I do.
Sure,
There's
but
a couple of those on the market.
that Jason Robertson guy, that guy seems all right. I want a center. I want
Okay.
somebody who can shore up the middle.
Mhm.
Just make it where it's not Kevin Hayes or bust at this point. Like, I think that we need to prepare for a world without a full Sean Couturier. Moving forward, we've got this guy for 8 years. Like, I'm hoping that he'll come back to some sort of what he was beforehand. But I mean, Casey, you've said it before. It's been a full year at this point since this guy's played hockey. Like, I just think if we can just get some more stability down the middle, we have enough wingers to like make it work enough. I just think, yeah.
We've got plenty coming back between Atkinson, JVR. If Bobby Brink's going to be playing when he gets healthy, like you've got him too. Yeah, everybody forgets about him. He hasn't played since last year. Like that injury's been hampering him. But the wingers are there. I agree. I think center's the position you go for because let's be honest, the defense is doing all right, just all right. Like,
Casey, are you going to drop Anisimov right now? Is that the name that you're going
to? God,
I forgot about him, but actually, you know what? He's got to be on the cusp of coming back.
Can't we bring
Give
back
me a
Roussel?
one-legged Anisimov versus what we got going right now? No, the name. Sorry, Derek. Keep going.
You're good. You're good. You go.
I was just looking at 23 free agents and just like the top 10 list. Would you guys be pissed or pumped? And it doesn't help our center depth, but like, what if we were, hey, Chicago, we're going to take Patrick Kane. We have plenty of cap room right now. What do you want? Like, I don't know how I would feel about it, quite frankly.
We're not in the right position for that. I'll be honest.
I mean, especially because the cost would probably be multiple first-round picks or something ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, if we can make it work, sure. But
I'd rather take Jonathan Taze at this point.
I'm not intrigued by either. Like
I'm very intrigued.
They're winding down. Like they're not going to be able to help us like years down the road.
Sure.
Now, if we were a contending team, absolutely. Yeah.
I would rather get. You mentioned O'Reilly. Like if he becomes available and St. Louis continues to be going down the hellhole. Like I don't know how old he is, but
well, he's a UFA. He hasn't been off to a good start. This team needs some sort of like jolt.
Kick in the pants.
My only worry is we are not in a position to trade our first round pick. So it's like, what do you actually have to offer these teams?
Take Florida's 2024 first.
Sure. I mean, I would love Ryan O'Reilly. And even if Ryan O'Reilly is half the player that he used to be, you get him for, a better deal down the road. I mean, he probably want to sign with a contender, but it was like, again, it would stabilize the center position.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right.
And it would give us like another very defensively sound center, which not the greatest thing to hear when all we preach is two-way forwards, but like at the same rate, he could put up points,
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't worry, guys. We got Anisimov in the wings, and we got Patrick Brown doing his conditioning stint. Our center depth is starting to look up here. In all seriousness, though, it doesn't hurt having either one of those guys in my opinion.
No, not at all. At this point,
I don't think it's going to help us in the goal department. But...
Right. Yeah. But like you and me said, Casey, like at this point, we just need some sort of stability, like something that's gonna like take this shaky foundation and make it look somewhat whole, because there's just too much bouncing around right now.
Right.
But it's gonna be like that too, though. Like, I mean, no matter what, because we saw, think back to AV's first year and how many fourth and third line centers we saw in and out of the lineup. Rubstov got his chance, for Christ's sake. Like, I mean, come on, you know,
Sure.
Tortorella's gonna want to
See
find
how
his
much-
guys.
But see how well that turned out. I know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that, like, I like I was saying to Casey, is I just don't think that the compete level is sustainable for the season if there's just a continued, not knowing who's going to be on what line. So
Sure.
it's like, I think that our goaltending situation is set. I'm fine with Sandstrom for now, like whatever. I think our defense is set enough. Casey's already said that Ristolainen has sucked this season. Hopefully he can turn it around, but I'm happy
Agreed.
enough. So just something down the middle. Just give me someone who has played more than 14 games as a center in the NHL. Please.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I do like Lawton at center. I don't care what people say. Like, he's the one guy on our team that can actually win a face-off, so he's got
Right.
that going for him. But I think Lawton's played well. You want to see him net a little bit more, but I don't want him as our 2C. I want him as our 3C or even our 4C, for God's sake. But
Ideally, he's your 4C. Like,
Yeah.
on a good team, he's a 4C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
I kind of differ in opinion, but I get where you're coming from. I like him better on the wing. I think he's a little more effective, but like, sure, the face-off dot especially, his marks there are fantastic. And I mean, the Flyers used to be, or still kind of are, one of the better teams when it comes to the face-off dot.
Are
So
they?
Not the other night.
they
I
maybe not
don't
the other
think
night.
so,
No,
buddy.
I mean, think about it though.
been
Back
talking to
into like the
Meltzer?
years of Couturier, Giroux, Lawton too. Like you had,
Sure.
in terms
Sure.
of face-off strength, you had incredible depth.
Yeah, I just don't think this
we
season.
were always
No,
really
God, no.
we were always really like that, one of the top couple teams in faceoffs, but like it didn't equate to wins in
anything.
like those couple seasons either. So
Of course. Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, I know we talked about it kind of a little bit in terms of the fluctuation of the roster too. We're seeing it's much to what we were talking about, how AV handled things when he was here, where you're just kind of throwing it at a wall right now and sticking. You're getting guys in and out of the lineup, bringing up guys from Lehigh Valley, sending guys down. Willman's back up. Lashinsky's back down. Pat Brown's got his conditioning stint. Like, at what? I'll kind of lead with this question. At what point is it too late for these types of experiments, if you will?
What do you mean?
Like, we had talked about how
what do
we
you
want,
mean, Jenny?
we talked about how obviously we want to have a lineup that's consistent.
Sure.
We don't want to keep just throwing guys in there, seeing where they fit. But like, at what point is that no longer like? There's a bit of a period in time in which you're like, okay, we can tinker with things, figure things out. But at what point in the season is that not acceptable anymore?
I mean, if you want to take a real run at things, is that like what you mean? Because I think that if this team just continues to suck, right, or lose, then that's just going to be the reality. But I think like if you want to try to at least have some sort of improvement, I would say pretty damn soon.
Sure.
By Christmas.
That I was gonna say you have basically till the Christmas break, in my opinion, to like try to figure out like, all right, what is this team actually going to be this year? And I think we've all gone with highs, and now we're on a pretty serious low. I would argue that the next 2 weeks are probably going to be like the defining factor with with much of this. And like, the schedule is not ridiculous. It's not like we're dealing, matinee back-to-backs again until right after Thanksgiving. But, we have 3 games this week: Montreal, Boston, and Columbus. 2 of the 3 of those are winnable games. I'm not saying we're going to win, but are winnable games. Boston, is probably gonna like tell us to put our mouth on the curb and stomp on it. But, I think. Which sucks because like I have so many Bruins friends. But I think you have the ability and honestly a little bit of runway to be able to tinker with this lineup, because you are going to have some guys coming in. We joke about Anisimov. We joke about Brown. We joke about I think even Van Riemsdyk is back in December.
Sure.
Like you're gonna have some bodies coming in. It's not to say everybody's gonna stay healthy either, but like you have some guys coming in that I still think you need to give like an honest look within the roster just to see where things fall. Because Derek, before you came on, I like that third line we have is just a waste. Our fourth line, I'd rather play the fourth line twice as much than the third line that we have.
Big stick Nick.
It's like you've got your top six and the guys that belong there, and then you've got the fourth line set, but that third line's just a fodder of mismatch, whoever you've got.
The guys who belong in the top six
right now, given the status of the team. Yeah, I'm not saying they belong there like long term, but as of the way this team is constructed right now,
considering what we've got going on,
I feel like I shouldn't have to preface that anymore.
You have your middle six, then you have an AHL line, and then you have a fourth line. Yeah.
Well, I get pissed off with the guys.
Second line.
I get pissed off with the guys being like, "Oh, the Flyers' top line." I'm just like, easy.
The ones that are considered the top line,
like easy. Our current
very liberal with that.
Our current number one line. That's what they are.
The guys who see the most ice time.
Right. The gentlemen who Tortorella trusts the most to be on the ice the longest. That's what they are.
Even not our trust. Like trust not to screw up that much.
Which that didn't play too well in Columbus the other night either. They sucked the other night.
Is real quick, is Travis Konechny making a case for captain?
Absolutely.
I would say so, but they're not going to name a captain this year. I don't think they're going to name a captain this year either, but I'm thinking like he's not somebody I would have even considered to like be in the running for next season. He keeps this up. I think he could be the favorite.
I don't think he does. I don't think he is named captain. I think he's certainly making a case, and you could absolutely argue that his play is deserving of it. Captain doesn't always go to the best quote unquote player on the team, though.
But I'm not saying it even from a skill point. Like he is just involved in everything right now. Like he's the heart and soul guy. I mean, and there's Lawton too, but I don't think that was ever in question.
No,
but
never.
like Travis Konechny, to me, he's a part of every play. He's doing everything. He's on the penalty kill. He's scoring goals. Like to me, he's really bought in to all of this. Where it's like I wouldn't be surprised if he has become a reliable leader too in Giroux's absence.
I would love for him to become like the de facto like face of the franchise, because I do think he personifies so much of what one, this city likes to see, and two, kind of what Tortorella has been preaching in terms of, he's chippy, he's gritty, he's skilled, he's fast, he's willing to mix it up, but he's still delivering on results. Like he's having a really, really good year.
Who's the guy that he pummeled against Ottawa? Like oh my goodness.
Was that Shabbat?
Was it Shabbat?
Shabbat's hurt.
Well, whoever it was that Konechny fought, like he got some, shots in there.
I think it was a rookie.
It was the rookie. That's right. Yeah. I'm just like praying for the rookie. I don't care. Kill him. Kill him.
It is, I mean, another sort of side tangent. It is fun to see like when things get chippy and Konechny will get in there, but it's like, oh, you got Big Sick Nick, you got McEwen, you got Sealer, like
you got backup.
if Risto ever, Risto ragdolled some dude the other day in front of the net. He just like Risto hit now. But like it's a nice change of pace to not have Lindblom, dropping the ball.
We've come a long way, boys.
Hothead Tony D too, just like
that. That right there.
We're screaming and yelling.
We'll joke about that, but the fact that he took on a guy far out of his weight class, that earned a lot of respect from me.
Right.
I love him on the team.
Yeah,
I do too. And actually, I would say like I think he and Provorov have worked very, very well together. And
absolutely,
they're opposites, and they'll continue to do so. Like, whatever, I don't care if they're best friends. Like, they're working well on the ice, and they seem to be getting it done. So, I still like. I just don't. I don't know how we booked ourselves like the middle pairing defenseman and botched it so badly with Sanheim and Risto. I hope they turn it around. I really do. But
Right.
right now,
You
it's not
got to see that they can. Like, I mean, we saw what they did last year. They were arguably our most consistent and best pairing. So, like, you've
Mhm.
got to think they've got to be able to dig deep and find what they had last year.
Man, I really wish that Tony D'Angelo and Ivan Provorov were forwards because Cold War line would be awesome. Like, I feel like Cold War pair doesn't quite work as well,
Oh,
but
who are you going to put on the forward line with them?
I'm with Anisimov.
There you go. I'd feel bad for D'Angelo at that point. You flip the script there.
There's got to
No.
be something there that we can figure
Well,
out.
I mean,
here.
they're two of our most arguably they're top scorers. I think they're leading the team in assists at this point.
I mean, Tony D'Angelo's involved in
Everything.
Yep.
Oh yeah, deservedly so. He's played well to this point and deserves that ice time in those situations. Like I'd love to hear an argument against that.
I mean, it's just somebody who's paying attention
He's
to
a
the
bad
politics.
person. Yeah,
Right.
we've heard that.
Same guy complaining about Twitter.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we touched on it a little bit earlier, kind of alluding to it, but the week ahead at least, but like the weeks ahead, like we are starting to see, yes, this past week, 3 teams in the bottom of their division, 1 team at the top, but like you've got teams like Calgary, you've got the Caps, you've got the Pens coming up, you've got Boston coming up. The schedule gets tougher and the games are going to be more jam-packed. Like you're going to see back-to-backs, you're going to see every other night. We talked about it, I think, 2 weeks ago now. They're playing 15 games in 30 nights over the month of November. This right here and this stretch towards the middle of the month is going to be grueling for this team, and it's going to tell us a lot about their mettle and their makeup.
Right.
So I'm not going to lie. I'm readying myself for a Ranger-type defeat against Boston this week on Thursday. I hate to say that because I'd like to try to have faith in this team. But man, they're just not trending in the right direction right now. And Boston is, goddamn, they're good right now.
I think it'll be similar to the Stars game. Like, I don't think it'll be 9-1, but I think that we'll know that this game is out of reach early enough.
Is this like a Tahoe type game?
No, I'm with you on that. I think, you know, it's so cliche, but you got to just look at this one game at a time here. And I think like you got to just focus on a severely now wounded Columbus team that is missing, you know, arguably their top, you know, one of their top 2 offensive players and now their top defenseman.
We're missing a couple defensemen after that game against Philly.
Right. So, like, I think you got to go in there and be like, all right, this is the start of a new week, and we're going to start it by beating the fuck out of the team that
there it is.
kicked our ass last week.
I was waiting for it. Have we gotten through an episode in the past, like, couple months that you haven't dropped an F-bomb?
KCF bomb, probably not.
I put it in there for I put it in there for effect. And then you go into Boston, you just see where it goes. You know, and then I think you need to look at Columbus and Montreal as like games that like you got to come away with points at the very least in there. Otherwise,
the Montreal game has the potential to be an exciting game because they're a team that, like, of the crappier teams, like, seems to be like they're hard out, you know. So 2 similar teams. I mean, at least the Flyers until this past week, like, playing against each other. But God, up in Montreal, that's never fun.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're 8-6-1 so far. Like, Montreal is clearly overperforming as opposed to where they were last year. So could be a good game.
Right.
Right.
That could be.
But I think, you know, you look at those games and you're like, you got to do it. You know, you got to bust your butt in those things. But like the Boston game freaks me out, but you never know what's going to happen with these things. You know, it's like we never thought we'd go toe to toe with Florida and then we beat Florida.
Right.
You know, it just, you never know what's going to happen. I think the following week, not to jump too far ahead, but like Calgary seems to be good. But then you have Pittsburgh and you have the Caps. Neither of those teams are playing particularly well right now either.
Right.
And so I think like if you can just start stringing together a confidence building few wins, all this turns around pretty quickly. And I think that's when those young players believe. But It all starts with Columbus.
I think you've got to realize that, and when this team was like playing above their weight class, right? We were starting to go, well, these are teams that the Flyers should beat, right? I think we're finally realizing like there is no such thing as a team that the Flyers should beat. They're either teams that they can hang in there with and possibly get a win, or teams that are just gonna stop them.
Right.
And a team like Boston, if Carter Hart has a human night, it could get ugly. Yeah, I mean, we can't sustain any sort of offensive zone time. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a good way to put it. Though, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think it's a good way to put it, though. It's like the teams that we can hang with and the teams that are going to stomp us. I would say I'm a little bit more shocked about the amount of teams that are in like the hang with category, at least in this initial part of the season. Like, I think we all came into this being like, we're not going to win 10 games all year. We still might not, but we still got to reach that mark. But
not there yet. No, it's the point about Hart is interesting because yes, like we've seen him kind of fall back down to earth a little bit too, compared to the rest of the year, subpar performances. But like we forget that he's still boasting a 937 save percentage on the year, 2.18 goals against. Like his numbers are still very good.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just saying that this past week was a slightly more like back to reality week.
And like, this probably was better to be discussed at the beginning of the episode when my computer decided to take a shit on me. But like, I touched on it when I was on the High and Wide show with Jim on Monday for the St. Louis game. Like that was the perfect opportunity for Felix Sandstrom to really get in gear. Like you're playing a team that is barely scoring over 2 goals a game, struggling on offense. Their defense didn't look good. It was a great confidence booster. And we saw that from him, only to see him fall right back down to earth against the Stars. Again,
that's comparing apples to oranges, though.
And you didn't let me finish, you dick.
Of course I didn't.
Just like my wife.
This show was a lot better when your computer was in the shits.
It's a lot better because Hoagie's not here. Let's get that straight, right?
Well, that too.
I was going to say you were thinking it. I just said it, but it was disappointing to see how Sandstrom really had a great game. Could have been a great confidence builder in that St. Louis game, and then just kind of, I don't want to say they threw him to the wolves against Dallas, but like one of the better teams that he's seen all year.
Carter Hart should have had that game.
Yeah, again, we spoke about it last week. Give him the tail end of the back-to-back. Let the team play around him and feed off of him. You know what I mean?
I also think, though, if you're looking at it, that might have been their intention before Hart came down with whatever he had on
malaria.
Yeah, threw a wrench in it, yeah.
But as I was thinking about it after the episode, yes, that's one angle. But I also like if you look at a divisional game, I'd rather have Hart play in a divisional game where the points mean more versus against the Western team. If you had to do it one way or the other, like
Ottawa's not in our division, though.
Conference team.
Sorry. So like
he did get the Columbus game, which is a divisional game.
Right. So I'd rather see that, but what do I know?
Yeah. About as much as us.
You know a lot, Matthew Casey. You know a lot.
There's a reason we brought you
on
the
I
show.
know? I just have a podcast with you.
These schmucks. But all right, so before we wrap things up here quick, week ahead, Columbus on Tuesday, Boston on Thursday, Saturday, Montreal. How many points are we taking, fellas?
2.
I'm going 3. I'm going 3.
I think we beat Columbus, but I think we lose to Boston and Montreal.
Forever the optimist. I'm going 4.
Okay.
You're going win 2 overtime losses. I don't know. Not
I would
be
take
incredibly optimistic.
Yeah,
I'll take 2 overtime losses. Yeah.
Tomorrow's huge, though, in my opinion. Like this is a huge. Like you can't let this losing streak go 4 games in regulation. Like we can't do this again, guys.
No,
Johnny Gaudreau has been just waiting in his room until this game now.
Right.
He's like, these bastards passed on me over the offseason. I'm going to show them. All right. So Hoagie's not here again. No dad joke. I'm not even going to try.
Good.
Can't live
thank
up
you.
to that
Good
hype.
week. Yes.
Yeah. So Casey, finish us off here.
Pod
First
Street
begin, finish
Casey
us
on the blue check machine. Yes.
Did you pay your $8?
I wouldn't even know how the hell to do it. Like if you were like, hey, try to get verified, I'd be like, I don't even know what that means, nor do I like see the relevancy of it.
I like seeing
Like,
the people who have gotten verified, like, and had to pay for it, and I'm just like, you fools,
You knew they wouldn't get it if it was
But like, we also knew the ones that probably would. Like, think about it. Like before all this came about, if you were to tell somebody like you're going to end up having like the ability to pay to be verified, you could have compiled a list of probably 3 to 5 just flyers. You want to call them personalities that you're like, yeah, that guy would.
Did my friend pay for it?
Your friend.
It rhymes with claimy ass cow.
Not to my knowledge. There's a few though. There's a few though that you could guess.
What if we just like copied the blue ribbon and put them on our profile pictures so it looks like?
I don't know if you can though.
Why not? You could just
You can't
Photoshop it in.
Not on like your tagline though. Like you can not when you put your name.
Who's gonna know the difference? For
Has
God's
anybody else noticed a difference with Twitter? I mean, people are flipping, and it seems like the same thing that I've used before.
That's gonna end up shutting down anyway. Who cares?
I'm not on it enough to really like I'm
gonna be really
notice difference. But by the way, everybody follow me. I'm a great follow. But you know, I haven't noticed one bit of difference in this thing. I still get the same shit and I still block the same people. So
it's more bitching. It's just more bitching. Like Elon's ruining Twitter. Like, yeah, from a financial standpoint, it sounds like it. He turned a $40-something billion company to an $8 billion company. But
so the shocking part is it's the people complaining about the person who bought it that's ruining Twitter.
I'll tell you what, it's screwed up, man. It's my LinkedIn feed, which I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit for work stuff, but like the amount of people is like, hey, Tweeps was fired yesterday. Like, and I'm just like, if I hear Tweeps one more time on LinkedIn, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Like, I'm glad you were fired.
What's a tweep?
We'll
Twitter
ask Hoagie next week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's what they call each other. Like
this world is going to shit, man. Like, we really can't fix the economy, but we got a fun name for people who use Twitter.
Oh yeah, there's names for tons of folks like that out there.
We should probably say goodbye before we go and get canceled.
Let's go, John.
We're done.
You can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles. So Google us; it'll be great.
Wonderful. You can find me on Twitter, Pod Street Bob. John's on Twitter, Pod Street Gove. The Pod Street Bullies are on Elon Musk's machine at Pod ST Bullies. You can check out our affiliates, Flyers High and Wide, on Twitter at FlyersHW, 5 Minute Major Podcast with David Mastro over at 5 Min Major Pod, and our folks over at the Hockey Focus on Twitter at such the Hockey Focus. Until next week, enjoy the games, and
bye now.
Bye.
See ya.